Hello and happy Friday, and thanks for tuning in to RadioFreeRhinecliff.org. And this show in particular, correct me if I'm Norm. I'm your host, Norm. Delighted to have Jake Euell here as my guest. Hi, Jake.
How are you, Norm?
Good, thanks. Thanks so much for being here. So Jake and I just met. My friend Leslie said, you got to have Jake on. You got to have Jake on. And I'm like, all right, whatever. I'll take your word for it.
Right.
And you're so much fun. And we were just talking about everything before we went live. You were born and raised in Rhinebeck, correct?
Mm-hmm. Right here in Rhinecliff for the last 26 and a half years.
And this is the third time you've done just that, and I love it. I said Rhinebeck. You said, yes, Rhinecliff.
Exactly.
Always just a little correction. So what is the difference in your mind growing up here that makes you, where's the pride of place that makes you gently correct that every time?
So it's fun. Going to college, going to Rhinebeck High School, and being where I am now professionally, everybody knows Rhinebeck.
Yeah.
Everybody has heard, seen, has their cousin's, friend's, hamster's brother who has visited Rhinebeck. And then I tap into that little bit of Rhinecliff, and they're like, ooh, what's that? It's the undiscovered gem of the Hudson Valley. So for me, growing up here, and I mean, I was only born in 95, where in the late 90s, early 2000s, Rhinecliff wasn't the pretty, polished, fun place. So when I would walk down to, let's say, the boat launch with my grandmother, who used to live on Kelly Street,
okay,
we'd be walking down the boat ramp over the tracks, and you'd have to walk around the holes in the pavement because Rhinecliff was kind of an afterthought after losing the ferry and losing all of the traction that turned it from a bedroom community into this kind of secondary hamlet. So seeing what it is today, I love to tell people Rhinecliff is a place you want to visit and know and experience.
Right. So it's a little bit more exotic than
exactly.
Rhinebeck that everybody knows about. So any idea when the ferries stopped running?
Off the top of my head, no.
1950. Thank you, Matt. 1955.
Yep.
So your folks probably remembered that, and your grandma certainly.
So what's fun is I'm first generation Rhinebeck.
Oh.
So my father went to Rhinebeck High School, but he was born in the Bronx. He was raised in Carmel until 7th grade, and then they moved up here when he was in middle school. So I am a true first-generation Rhinecliffian.
And what was he doing, or what was your mom doing? What was your family doing that they moved northward and settled here?
So my grandparents on my dad's side were in construction, and they actually owned an elevator company in the Bronx. And one of their claims to fame was they had the original elevator system in Co-op City.
Oh, wow.
And so that was a big cash out for my grandfather. And where they were in the Bronx in the early 70s, and I don't know if this is something that trickled through into my DNA, but the Bronx was burning.
Yeah.
And so they decided, you know what, we have some family who lives in Carmel. We have some distant family who live in Rhinebeck. They moved up to Carmel, got my dad through middle school, and there was the opportunity for my grandparents to move up here and kind of carve a niche in this up-and-coming town,
right.
Rhinebeck. And so they settled here. My dad graduated from Rhinebeck in 89.
Nice.
I stayed local. He went to the Culinary Institute.
Nice.
And then I came around in 95, and we've just been here ever since.
And was he working as a chef or in a restaurant or hospitality in some way?
Yeah, so he was out so my grandparents were still here. My father was working out in Aspen, Colorado on externship where he met my mother. They both came back here and just settled here in Rhinecliff. So, yeah.
That's great. And then you graduated here. What year I came?
2017, I graduated from Rhinebeck High School.
Oh, my goodness. And you went away to school to study.
2013. I'm sorry. I graduated high school in 2013.
Okay, to study food and beverage management, right?
Yes. Yep. I went to Johnson & Wales University out in Providence, Rhode Island.
Which was sort of what your dad was doing. Was your mom involved in that as well?
Yeah, a little bit. So my mom is a full-time employee for a health insurance company.
Okay.
But she always had a side, second, or third job as doing something in restaurants. Waitressing, bartending, hostess, XYZ. Just that second kind of side gig to bring in some extra cash. And so between my chef father and my hospitality mother, I always found myself in a kitchen setting, kitchen environment, restaurant environment. And as any other recent graduate from Rhinebeck High School, can tell you, I don't want to go to college 20 minutes from my parents' house. No. So Culinary Institute was out of the equation. I did look at Paul Smith's college up north, Cornell, and Johnson & Wales University, and I ended up ultimately going to JWU.
JWU.
Yep.
Which is in Rhode Island or something?
Yeah, it's right down the street from Brown, right in Providence.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
And you spent 4 years there?
Yep. So, I got my bachelor's in restaurant, food, and beverage management with my concentration in sommelier. But I put a small asterisk on that because I'm not a sommelier. I'm just a dude who likes wine.
Well, it's a fairly rigorous path to become a certified sommelier, right? Mm-hmm. Huh. But you studied enough. Mm-hmm. And when you first started tasting wines with a critical palate, what did you love? And then the follow-up question is, and how has that changed over the years?
So getting into the critical palate was its own fun little side story. So when I went to Johnson & Wales, I had the option of graduating with a 4 years bachelor or nothing. There was no associate's program for my restaurant, food, and beverage college. So I had actually come home in my third year for Thanksgiving break, and there was a job posting on Indeed for the City of Poughkeepsie Fire Department for a full-time fireman's position. And I presented this to my parents, I presented this to my friends, and everybody said, you can't drop out of college to become a firefighter. And so I actually went back to Johnson & Wales, and I was a little unenthused, but my academic advisor comes up to me and says, hey, just so you know, you do need to declare a concentration for your major. And I was like, man, I don't know what I want to do. What are my options? She gives me the 7 options. Like any rational 20-year-old. I go home, I put these 7 available options on a pie chart, equal distribution. I print it out in color, of course, and I go home. I go into my common room, the living room. I put it on my roommate's dartboard. I took a dart. I walked 7 steps away. I don't play darts, and it landed on sommelier studies. Yeah, no, I hand to God.
I love that. What were some of the others? Do you recall?
Sports event management. So like working in a large arena or convention center. Distillation arts, brewing arts.
Oh wow!
And a couple other just general business concentrations.
Was cooking firehouse chili one of them?
No, that was an elective I took, though.
Was it? No.
It was, and we got to work with the Providence Fire Department. And it was just poetic justice because I've been at the Rhinecliff Fire Department since I was 16.
Wait a minute, I want to hear this. So that was an elective. Yeah. It was cooking for firemen.
Cooking with them. So it was a requisite, I guess, for the city of Providence, Rhode Island Fire Department that members with less than X number of years needed to do X hours of community outreach. And so they partnered up with the culinary school. They'd be cooking with culinary kids, and we'd help feed the fire departments who would purvey everything. They would get all the food for us.
Right.
We'd go in and learn about like cooking on a short budget, cooking on a quick and unpredictable timetable, and stuff like that. It was a cool elective that I took.
And so what were some of the dishes that were most popular for the firemen you were cooking for?
So, believe it or not, chili is not one of them. Chili was not in the top
that's the
20.
cliche.
It's one of those cliche things. But disco fries, so homemade French fries with house-made gravy, biscuits and gravy because you can eat that any time of the day, and you can eat it as a leftover. Lasagna, usually a meat-based lasagna, and then chicken parm sandwiches.
Oh
yeah.
All right, and what do you cook much now?
I really don't.
You don't?
It's hysterical. I don't live in Rhinecliff anymore at the moment. I'm trying to change that. I don't live in Rhinecliff at the moment. I live down in Hyde Park with my girlfriend Amanda, who's a full-time employee of the Culinary Institute of America. And she does not work on the culinary side. She's all administrative, but that's her second passion is cooking, and I am the unfortunate receiver of all her culinary efforts. Unfortunate
because why?
I can't fit in my own pants anymore.
Yeah, well, welcome to the club. Catch up with me in 40 years. Yeah. Wow. And so what are her favorite dishes to cook for the two of you?
So she comes from a big Italian family, so it's anything quintessential Tuscan Italian.
Oh.
And I am an Irish and German boy, so this is a big learning curve that I'm starting to love, to be honest.
I know. That's nice. And so growing up, you said your dad was a chef and your mom was a restaurant person.
Yeah.
Who did the cooking in that kitchen?
It would split. I mean, usually during the week, it would be my mom, because my dad would be in the restaurant Monday through Friday or Tuesday through Saturday, and mom would come home after job one, throw dinner together for me, my little brother, Ryan, and she'd go to job two. And so Ryan and I would be at home, have some dinner, hang out, watch some TV, and on the weekends, my mom would usually be working full time, and my dad would be around. We'd experiment. We'd have the Three Amigos night, me, my dad, and my little brother, and he'd throw us together something nice.
Nice. All right. So, are there any dishes from your youth that you crave now and then? You're like, oh man, I wish I could have dad's this or mom's that.
Well, I'll be completely honest. I'm very lucky in the regards that my parents still live right here in Rhinecliff. My grandparents are still around. They live in Tivoli. I live in Hyde Park. So every Tuesday we meet at my parents' house and we have family dinner.
And you're still eating their food.
So I'm really fortunate in that regard. I think probably the most craveable thing is my mom's pot roast with potatoes and carrots.
Nice. The most craveable thing. All right, back to this wine question. I'm curious. You started off, you threw the dart at the board, and so you concentrated in wine.
Yeah.
And what did you love when you first started off, and what do you love now? Did it change at all? And I ask this because my tastes are just stupid and brutish. I love the big jammy fruit bomb, the Australian Shiraz, just like big. And people who really know wine turn their nose up at that. They're like, oh my God, you just developed some taste buds.
Well, the big aha moment for me was my senior year of college. I was working with Professor Patricia Bowman, and I was sitting next to this kid who really thought, I am the world's next sommelier. And for all I knew, he could have been. And he would turn his nose up at these random wines, and I'd sit there and be like, I kind of like this. Yeah. And so we were debating. We had to make an argument of why our wine should be on the list and not the others. And at the end of this argument at one point between me and this other kid, Professor Bowman looks at us and says, well, you're both right. I said, well, what do you mean? Wine taste and taste in anything else in life is just like a taste in music.
Right.
Just because you like A, B, and C aspects of something doesn't mean that those are anything worse than X, Y, and Z in the other wines. And I went, oh, wow. That's right. So
Sweet validation for your taste buds.
Exactly. So I've made this whole idea, and my whole entire MO is to bring wine to the everyday enjoyable level. I hate when people say, oh, I don't have enough money for wine. I'm not a good wine taster. I don't know what I like. And I said, well, how do you know that you like white chocolate? When somebody presented to you white chocolate, you tried it, and you said, oh, you know what, this is different, but I do like it.
Right.
And I'm like, well, that's just what Cabernet Franc is for me. It's something that you don't know. You may know it's something similar to that, but I want you to see if you like it or not. And if you don't like it, I want you to tell me what you don't like about it so I can find something you do like.
Well, let's do that right now. He's just pointing for you at home. He just pointed to the bottle of Cabernet Franc that he brought from the Millbrook Vineyards, where you work.
Yeah, so I'm the tasting room director at Millbrook Vineyards and Winery, and I've been there for just over 4 years.
And also for you at home, let me just say, he popped the foil off and pulled the cork out in like 2 seconds.
Yeah, 7 seconds or less. That's the guarantee at the winery. I hold the record right now.
What do you mean the guarantee? Do they tout that? Like,
yeah, so we have people who come in every 2-3 weeks, and they'll pull out their phone and time it.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, I again, it's the hospitality idea of I want you to laugh before you enjoy anything. I want you to have a positive reinforcement with this entire experience. Even if you hate the wine, I want you to come back just so I can make you laugh again.
That's just wonderful. You must be an MVP employee. All right, so tell us about this wine.
So this is the grape varietal itself. As everybody would know, maybe a Pinot Noir, a Cabernet Sauvignon, a Riesling. Cabernet Franc is an old-school French blending red. It's actually the parent grape type to Cabernet Sauvignon. What most people don't know is that Cabernet Sauvignon, by every metric, is a man-made varietal. It's not a recent varietal that's been produced, but 17th century France, you had people who were experimenting with splicing of different growths of plants and things like that. Wine and Vitis vinifera grape types, the European grape type that we use for wine, was one thing that benefited out of this, and we created these cool hybrid clones. So Cabernet Sauvignon is just a splicing of Cabernet Franc and Sauvignon Blanc about 285 years ago. So
wow.
Cabernet Sauvignon is the United States' most widely planted, cultivated, fermented, and consumed wine. Cabernet Franc is not, because the growing conditions and regions that are required for these two grape types are totally different. The best way I tell people the difference between Cab Franc, Cab Sauv, think of an Australian Shepherd and a German Shepherd.
Okay.
So you're going to have completely different characteristics out of what you're going to get out of these animals, but the name sounds so similar, you're going to be like, oh, I know what to expect, and you really don't until you experience it.
All right, well, what do you expect? I mean, the Cabernet Franc will have a certain flavor profile that you learn to look for when you're tasting it. What do you expect before we taste this?
Bright, vibrant, green herbaceousness.
Okay.
Rosemary flavors, bell pepper. It's almost like you're walking through the spice garden. This is what we phrase as a cool climate varietal. So it's not going to have the jamminess, the smoothness, or quote-unquote sweetness of your California Pinots, your Cabernet Sauvignons, or your Red Zinfandels. It is going to have a little bit of earthiness. What we call it tannic structure is a tannic acid that's naturally occurring in grape skins, and that's what we poorly phrase in the English language and as dry or dehydrative of the palate.
Gotcha. So, sorry, I was going to say, in France, is this from Bordeaux?
So this is going to be a Bordeaux region grape varietal. It's more so well known in the Loire Valley.
Okay.
The Loire Valley is more so known for their Cabernet Francs. You really don't see many areas of the world producing this. It's going to be mostly northern Italy in the Friuli region, northeastern. Bordeaux, France, New York State, and where we are our own AVA, the Hudson River region, and the Finger Lakes region. Those are kind of the big ones right now.
So why did the Millbrook people decide to grow this grape?
So my boss, John Dyson, responsible for everything except for the vacuums, purchased the property in 1979.
Okay.
And he saw eerie similarities to vineyards he had been in the Friuli region, northeastern section of France. And so he went on a kind of an explorative idea saying, we could probably have a decent winery and vineyard here. The vineyard is the actual farmland. The winery is just where we make the stuff.
Right.
So he brought in grape varietals and specific clones or species of these grapes that he thought would fare well. So we focus on cool climate Chardonnays, Cabernet Franc, Rieslings, Pinot Noirs, Traminets, things like that.
And what do they have the most of? Is there one grape that's...
Chardonnay. Chardonnay, out of our 38 acres of vines, I think it comprises about 14 and a half.
Okay. It's a gorgeous place. All right, listen, enough. I got to taste this wine.
Of course.
And how do you taste this?
You drink it. So I mean, I love to take the affluence out of wine tasting, to be completely honest. So what you do want to do, I mean, we're not drinking out of the tulip glasses. Do a little spin. You don't need to put this in a blender. You don't need to try and knock somebody out who's next to you trying to swirl the glass. You're just trying to create a small coating on the inside of the glass or a plastic cup.
Do people actually put red wines in blenders?
No, it's just no. I hope not. I like to believe they don't, but
I mean, the part of the idea is to let it aerate, right?
Aeration.
A blender would certainly do that.
Yeah,
you're goofing. I'm taking it seriously.
You're definitely not incorrect, but I feel like some people halfway across the globe would actually sense this in the force and probably have a heart attack of some sort.
Well, that's gorgeous. What a lovely, tasty wine. I just wish you had poured me more than a tiny thimbleful.
The bottle's right there.
Yeah, I'm kidding. So you said in college you were 20 and you saw this ad somewhere.
Yeah.
To be a fireman.
Yes.
But you didn't. But why? What was it that was appealing to you as a college kid to stop what you were doing and become a fireman?
So I've been in the Rhinecliff Volunteer Fire Company since I was 16 years old. I don't have a good reason why I joined. The best thing I can remember is that one of my buddies, Matt Halstead, who was on the track team with me at Rhinebeck, came to the track meet on Saturday morning and was absolutely worn out. I said, "What'd you go out last night?" He's like, No, I was at a house fire." I'm like, "Oof. Your house caught fire?" He's like, "No, somebody else's." I'm like, "You lit somebody's house on fire?" He's like, No, I'm with the fire department. I'm like, "No, you're not. You're like
you're
7,
Matt.
16.
You're my buddy." Yeah.
He's like, "No, I'm a member at the volunteer fire company." I was like, "You can do that?" He's like, "Yeah. Here's an application." I end up, and it's all of 800 feet from where I grew up from, on Charles Street here, and I walked over one day and I saw a couple kids I thought I recognized from the high school, people who graduated before me, people I'd never seen in my life. And I walked over and I said, "Hey, what does it take to join?" And gentleman comes out, introduces himself as Rich Kipp, who's previous chief, and he says, "Hey, come on inside." All right, cool. Hands me a piece of paper, has me fill it out. He says, "You got $5 on you?" I'm like, "I got a 10. He's like, "All right, perfect." Takes my 10, gives me a 5. He's like, "Yeah, come in on Monday and you'll probably be voted in." I was like, "Oh."
That was it. There was a $5 application fee.
Now it's $10, but it was $5. Yeah, inflation. That was how I got into it. And I realized when I saw this job posting, I've been doing this already for 4 years and hopefully projecting longer for free.
Right.
So I know I enjoyed it. I didn't know if I enjoyed it more or less than the hospitality restaurant stuff. So it was an idea of, I can do this today, tomorrow, as a hospitality side. I can pour wine, I can cook food, but this opportunity probably won't come up again soon. And so I tried to jump on the fire department thing, and hindsight, retrospectively, I am so glad I stayed in college.
and why do you say that?
In my senior year, it was by far my favorite learning experience of all time. I got so deep into the restaurant management classes. I was Johnson & Wales' youngest student manager for campus dining that they've ever had, and I was able to run my own dining hall. So Johnson & Wales, it's culinary school. And so instead of having Greek life and frats, where you wanted to be the cool kids were campus dining. And so we had 12 dining locations that were all staffed by students. You didn't have to be culinary or baking and pastry. I had IT majors. We had equestrian majors or horse studies. And I had this group of 37, 40 kids under me who were just so much fun. And we basically operated a Five Guys Burgers and Fries style dining hall. And it was the worst and best sitcom you've ever seen in your life.
I'll bet.
It was such a fun time. And I was very glad I went back. And I've kept the fire department thing in the back pocket. And it's still always something I can do. So, yeah.
And, in fact, you are doing it. You said you were the youngest student manager of the dining hall. Mm-hmm. You're also, as I noted in the promo for the show, which I think nobody looks at, 2 likes on Facebook, the youngest fire chief in New York State.
Yeah.
And how old are you right now? 26?
26.
And the youngest fire chief in Rhinecliff history.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
It's fun. Yeah. It's when people bring it up, I'm like, yeah, it's neat. But I mean, I'm just doing what I like to do. I think I alluded to it earlier, is that as my parents, I mean, I'm so very thankful for my parents and everything that they ever provided for me and my brother. But we had to be really autonomous at a young age because working 2 jobs, my grandfather and my father owned Euell Realty in Rhinebeck until 2008. And besides that, my dad would have another job in a restaurant. My mom would have 2 jobs. And it was, my brother and I were very, very fortunate because our parents were pretty laissez-faire. They saw that, hey, you know what? We got 2 good kids who are doing good in school and personal life and sports and everything else, and they just let us live life. And I have had friends who would have the helicopter parents over them, and they lacked social skill and they lacked resourcefulness on their own. They couldn't be autonomous. They couldn't be a human being without having a guiding hand. So I attribute that to any form of success I've had, whether it be at school, at the firehouse, professionally. And I'm lucky to say that.
That they left you in a place where you had to sort of figure out a lot of things.
Exactly.
That's amazing. So you've been fire chief for how long now?
1 year, 3 months.
And you said it was Chief Kipps before?
Yes. So if you look at the history of Rhinecliff Fire Company, we were founded in 1915. If you take myself, my predecessor and mentor, Rich Kipp, and his predecessor, Bill Cotting, who's still in Rhinecliff, that comprises about 37 years of our 107 years as the three chiefs.
Nice.
So those two guys, Bill has served cumulatively the longest, 25 years as chief. Rich Kipp, in one stint, did the longest in 9 years as chief. And so whenever it's a change, it's almost like the changing of the Pope in Rhinecliff.
Yeah.
It's not something that happens every year or every 2 years. So it's big shoes to fill, and there's a lot of learning curves. But the one good thing is I have a support staff that's amazing underneath me as chief.
And what is that, the support staff? What kind of things do they do?
So with the fire department, I keep vacillating between fire company, fire department. It's really three legal entities that fall under that one roof. There are the responders. We'll get the easy one out of the way. The responders, the people who you see riding in the ambulance, the fire truck, putting out the fires, people who get to talk on the podcasts, and do the interviews and all that fun stuff. And that's your fire company. That's your living, breathing aspect of we're going to go do what our bylaws and mission statement says. Before that, you have bylaws and mission statements, the bureaucratic side of it. And so we have an e-board and committees, and that's our fire company e-board, like Zach Bendener, who I think is listening tonight.
I hope so.
Our vice president is Joe Vaccarino, who's also the fire lieutenant. So it's people who get to not do or opt to not do the down and dirty stuff, whether they've been in the fire company for 50 years, know the operational side like the back of their hand, and say, you know what, I'll let somebody else do the hard stuff. And I'm just going to sit back and be a board of director, or I'll head the fundraising committee or something along those lines. And it's where we decide how we're going to act, when we're going to act, and how we're going to do it. The third aspect is the board of commissioners. So what most people don't realize about our firehouse and the firehouse on 9G Hillside is that we are not a municipal service. We are not water or sewer or electric. The Rhinecliff Volunteer Fire Company is its own LLC. We're a private entity that operates on a contract to the town of Rhinebeck. So if you look at New York State General Town Law, there's fire districts. Rhinecliff is its own fire district. We're totally autonomous. Any property owner in this district, when they get their annual taxes, there's a line item of a fire protection tax, and that's evaluated on X cents per $1,000 of
right. And is the Rhinebeck Fire Department the same, or is that an actual municipal?
They're an actual municipal service. They are the Village of Rhinebeck Fire Department. So instead of having a board of commissioners for me, which is a publicly elected position, they have the village board is their overarching entity.
Okay.
So they're technically only indoctrinated to provide service to the village of Rhinebeck, but then the town comes in and says, well, we have this space, we don't have our own fire department, let's create contracts or equivalency in fire protection tax to provide EMS and fire to these areas, e.g. Ferncliff Nursing Home, anything on Rhinecliff Road, anything north of the hamlet, anything south of the hamlet, or you get to your friends out on Schultzville Road or Round Lake Road or anything outside the town or village, that has to be a contract that's negotiated with one of the 3 or 4 entities.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. I did not know that. So what's the budget of the Rhinecliff Fire Department? I guess as chief, a lot of your work is pushing the numbers around.
I'm lucky. I don't have to push many numbers around. That is the Board of
nice.
Commissioners. So
Okay.
they are the state level entity for us. They set the taxation level, the annual budget, and the tax collection for us. Ratio of the town of Rhinebeck Fire Department to us, it's about 16-1.
I'll bet.
I don't know the exact number, but it is public information. If you go onto the town of Rhinebeck site, it is in their town budget.
And is your budget public information as well?
It is.
Oh,
yes.
There you go.
You can. It's technically going to be operated through the town of Rhinebeck.
So I can figure out this next question just by going there. Does the fire chief get a salary?
Oh no.
It's all volunteer.
Oh yeah, from the
chief
person,
all the way.
Yeah. So over in the parking lot right now is Gianna Fusaro and David Feeney. They're my two of my three newest members. They get paid the same as I do,
which is zero.
Which is $200 from New York State every year is a tax stipend.
$200.
Yeah. So whether you're putting in the most hours or no hours or an hour, they can claim a tax write-off of $200 each year.
Right. Well, God bless you all for doing that. Yeah. I mean, there was just a fire here, near where you grew up.
Yeah.
And you all responded. You all got out of bed.
Yep.
Went or wherever. And I'm not recollecting what time of day the fire was.
3:06 p.m.
Okay.
Yep.
And went into the fire and worked on it. Tried to put it out. Tell us about that fire.
So this was, unfortunately, the first active fire I was the command at. So the idea is one central person is command. We say the fire service is paramilitaristic in that it's a flow of command. One commands three, who commands three more, up to 7 people. So within our hierarchy, there's chiefs, a chief, multiple assistant chiefs, then there's multiple captains, then lieutenants, and then line level firefighters, EMS, and support staff. We were dispatched out at 13:06 for a possible oven fire. I am lucky. We are lucky. I happened to be off. Most of my days off was Monday and Tuesday, but this week I had a Wednesday for some reason. I was sitting at the fire station and it goes out, hey, Rhinecliff, Rhinebeck, and Hillside, because I have a pre-planned mutual aid. Whereas to the idea is if you see smoke, smell smoke, see fire, XYZ, we're automatically getting all 3 departments.
Great.
And this is good because it was 3 o'clock on a Wednesday. I don't know how many people are free on 3 o'clock on a Wednesday, but because it's all volunteer, everybody's working their normal job. So that's why you see these endemic issues with volunteer fire companies, is that we barely have time to work 1 job to be comfortable, 2 jobs to definitely be hopefully comfortable, and then there's no time for the volunteer aspect. We were lucky that I was in the station, and everybody has a different level of certification, whether they can drive the apparatus, operate the pumps on the fire truck, go into the active fire, or if they're EMS and everything else. And everybody in the department varies on level because it's 80% in-house training. So I am the only EMT firefighter who can drive everything and pump everything. That's why I'm the chief, I guess.
Okay.
But so I was able to flag down Zach Bendner, who is currently in class to become an exterior firefighter.
Nice.
He's not even through with his certifications yet. And the immediate thought was, okay, possible oven fire. So we know it's partially contained and potentially extinguishable with a normal fire extinguisher.
Right.
Normal 5-pound, 10-pound fire extinguisher. So every 60 seconds that a fire is left uncontrolled with ample fuel and oxygen, it can double in size.
Wow.
And it's an exponential rate at that point, especially in an older construction house like it was. And I told Zach, hey, let's get the truck to the scene quick, and let's see what we can do. We jump in the truck, come out of on Schatzel downhill towards our fantastic Epicurean corner store. We turn the corner on the Charles Street Main Street, and there's just brown gray smoke crossing the street. I couldn't see the top of the hill, and so at that point, we turned onto Duchess Terrace, and we called for what we say is a second alarm of fire. Second alarm of fire is the responding entity telling the 911 center in Poughkeepsie, hey, we have something. I'm going to need more people.
Right.
And at that point, they started toning out. We phrase it toning out or calling for additional resources.
Gotcha.
Zach and I were able to pull one hand line or hose line off of our main attack engine and start an exterior fire attack.
And what's the first thing you do for an exterior fire attack in this case? Is it the roof or through a window or?
It's totally situationally dependent.
Right.
This one, the fire. So I'll talk about different sides of the house.
Okay.
As you're walking up to a building, that is your A side, your alpha side.
Okay.
And then we go in to the left is going to be your B, C. To the right is the D side or delta side, and you circle back to the A. In theory, if it's a four-sided house. When we presented to the scene on the AD, so the front right corner of the building, we had fire coming out of two windows on the first floor. I had instructed Zach, just push the fire back into the window. Because at this point, we were trying to keep it from coming out of the window, up the exterior wall, and into the eaves of the roof. Unfortunately, where the fire started was more or less centrally to the structure in what's called a balloon frame building. So older buildings pre-World War II, they aren't built as today Tomorrow houses are. It's not you lay the foundation, build a first floor, stop. Build a second floor, stop. In balloon frame, you have 2x4s or similar beams that are running the entire height.
Oh.
And there's no breaks, and they create these small chimneys or fire channels. And so we were able to push the fire back into the heart and to the delta side, away from the second and a half story of the main structure. But it had been to a point where there was already a kitchen, a living room, a bedroom, and a bathroom fully engulfed.
Wow. So Zach's outside. He's the trainee. He can't go. He's not allowed to go inside,
Correct.
I'm guessing.
Correct.
And so you're running inside?
Not yet.
Okay.
So you are always in a team of two. There's always a buddy system. You don't go in solo.
Nobody runs inside solo, like in every action movie
Exactly.
I've ever seen.
Like watching 911, the new show, is just comedy for me. But yeah, so you never go in alone. That's one of the first things. The other thing we knew, and this is a pertinent detail, is everybody and everything that could get out was out. 3 dogs, 3 people were out of the building.
Because you saw them when you pulled up.
Yep, so the homeowner was outside.
Oh, good. That's so nice. Here's another question. You described the smoke you saw as you started driving towards there.
Yeah.
Does the color of the smoke tell you anything?
It can. So smoke in of itself is just solid particulate and or fuel that has not been burned off yet. What you need for fire is, we call the fire triangle, fire tetrahedron. You need fuel, you need oxygen, you need a reaction, and you need an ignition. Once you start to lose one of those 3 or 4 things, because once it's ignited, you don't need the secondary ignition. The fire itself is feeding its own growth. Once you start to lose one of those 3 things, the efficiency of the burn of the fire declines. So in a structure house, let's think about a house for a second. The interior of the house is on fire, and the fire is consuming the oxygen faster than the oxygen can enter the building through a crack in the door, an open window, or a chimney, or something along those lines. You'll start to see a declination in the volume of smoke, but an increase in the density of the particulate in the smoke. So you'll see that deep, heavy black smoke. That is usually where from an interior fire attack, we start to back up. Because all it takes is one window to break, one door to open, a part of a wall or roof to collapse to reignite all that fuel that's suspended in the air, above you, around you, behind you. So at that point, we call that a flashover, and you could be involved in fire.
Egans.
Whereas, if it's a light, gray, hazy smoke, fine particulate, it's a clean burn, and it's probably in the inception, in the primary beginnings of burning, in theory, potentially, possibly. But brown, gray smoke, we knew it was what we call a healthy fire, a working fire that had fuel, had oxygen, and had enough.
So this black smoke, when it's starving for oxygen, it's both waning and also at its most dangerous for you.
Volatile. Yes, hands down.
Egads.
There's, I don't want to say great video, but it's great video from my end of, if you Google Flashover, not the movie. The movie is fantastic to watch.
Oh, right. Who was in that? Wasn't that what was his name?
God, we have a copy at the Firehouses, as cringy and ironic as it is.
Flashover.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw that.
Flashovers and backdrafts. Those are the two.
Oh, backdraft.
Yeah,
that's the one I'm thinking of.
Dangerous items that you can go on YouTube and look at great examples of it and how people read it correctly and back out. But we were able to. This is the most, what I consider the most critical part of this fire, is that on the delta side, or the north side of the building, the neighboring house was 5 feet 7 inches away. And we had fire showing out of 2 windows on the first floor of that delta or north side of the building. And so we were lucky that we had enough manpower or personnel show up that I parked 2 people with 1 hose line in between those 2 houses and just said, your entire life's purpose,
soak that house
for the 6 hours or however long we're going to be here, is just make sure it doesn't, quote unquote, jump, doesn't go from one structure to another. And we say we're protecting exposures or secondary facilities, buildings that could go up.
Right.
So we had 27-mile-an-hour winds, 1 frozen fire hydrant, and not enough room on Dutchess Terrace, because if you ever drive around Dutchess Terrace and someone else wants to drive around Dutchess Terrace, you know it's a lane and a quarter, more or less. So bringing in the fire trucks was tough.
Wow.
But we had enough experienced drivers from especially the Rhinebeck Fire Department who ended up on the riverside of the house on Dutchess Terrace and just parked them in there and said, "This is your entire job."
And so how long were you all fighting this fire?
So we got there 3:09. 3:09. Fire was knocked down within about an hour and 45 minutes. And that is a long time. That is a very long time.
I'll bet. I'm worn out just hearing you describe this.
There was some issues with the scene, with the building construction. We had lost water pressure from the hydrant system for about 8 minutes. Just due to the sheer volume that we were taking out of the system. So each fire truck that we have carries water itself. That's not the issue. We had set up a 5-inch hydraulic line from our engine, or our main fire truck, they always see driving around, to another fire truck from Red Hook, actually, that was hooked into the hydrant. The rate at which our 4 interior teams were attacking the fire and dispensing water was just larger than what the water supply could give us. And so there was about 8 minutes in which we actually had to pull out all the interior teams. And we had to just bring everybody outside, wait for us to get positive pressure on the pump, and then we had to go back in. And like I said, 60 minutes or 60 seconds, it can double.
You said yeah.
And yeah, so it was tough.
Well, again, God bless you, volunteer, putting yourself in harm's way and coordinating all of this, just amazing. What kind of school and what kind of education do you have to have? I mean, you know all about this stuff.
Dutchess County is very proactive in getting training to the volunteer companies. We do have paid companies in Dutchess County. They're mostly in the southwestern corner. The training facility for your initial fire department training, your interior fire certification, is in Poughkeepsie on Creek Road. And I am lucky that I have members who like to take those classes. It's a one-time certification to get your interior fire training. And you are expected to keep up training hours in-house. I receive it. So I'm the training officer for the fire department. When you have a department of 90, 100, 120 people, you can delegate out these tasks as different officers and positions. I just opted to be the training officer because I like to train our guys and gals. And so we get a list of hours that we need to do per the state once they've received their initial certification. And every Monday night, we're down there doing drills and hours. The classes that we all take, whether it be, like last night, I was at a trench rescue awareness for cave-ins and stuff like that, because who knows? Why not? And it's free. And so I can bring this information back to the fire company and relay this. Hey,
Right.
If we ever have XYZ emergency, we can do this or we can't do this. So a lot of the training is in-house. It is all free if they want to go to a state-funded class. And then we also do, as more so for the EMS stuff, which is 80% of what we do, is mostly online.
That's great. Yeah. So how many firefighters do you have in the Rhinecliff department?
So out of our 26 members who are active on scenes, we have, it's going to be 10 interior firefighters by the end of March.
And so 16 exterior only?
Yep, exterior or people who have quote-unquote retired from interior fighting. So people who were interior firefighters for 40 years.
But then they haven't kept up their certification, their retraining, and all that stuff.
Or they just don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
70 years old, 75, 80 years old. And I'll take their...
And how many of those 26 or the 10 are men?
You know, out of our 10 interior members, it's going to be 8 of us.
8 men.
Yep.
2 women.
Yep.
That's pretty good.
It's great.
And I would just hazard a guess that, 20 years ago, or certainly 40, 50 years ago, it was 10 and 0.
If you look around the county that we're in today, you'll find plenty of fire departments that have less than 5%, less than 2%, or even 0%.
Right.
And I can't speak to anyone else's department, but my thing is, it's a standardized training. If you can get through it, you can come run on my trucks. One of our members had applied to another fire department, told them, hey, I want to do this. And they said, no. A lot of the members of the Rhinecliff Volunteer Fire Company, I always phrase it in the most endearing way, we are the bad news bears of fire departments. We are the ragtag, fun group of people you've ever met in your life.
I love that. So that makes you the Walter Matthau.
And yes, to some degree. That's why I brought wine.
And thank you so much. But there is an actual nickname for your fire department, I think.
Yeah, we're the Dock Rats.
The Dock Rats.
Yep.
That's pretty good, too.
Yep.
Bad News Bears and the Dock Rats. So we're running out of time, of course, but not out of questions. The fire that we were talking about right here in Rhinecliff, how's the family doing? Is the Briggs family, I believe?
Yeah, so I actually was able to talk to Annette, Wednesday, and they're going to be moving into a new house in Rhinebeck, in Kingston. In Kingston this week, maybe this past week, and they're physically doing well, and I can't really speak to the mental or emotional because I couldn't ever imagine this.
No, it would be terrible.
They are asking if you did a donation through GoFundMe.
And where would people go to donate to their GoFundMe?
So if you go on to GoFundMe, you can go right to the GoFundMe site, the main site, and just Google the Briggs, Briggs, Fire Relief Fund, or something to that effect, or even Google Rhinecliff because we geotagged it. You can find this site. You can easily go to the Rhinecliff Volunteer Fire Company Facebook page, my personal Facebook page, Jake Euell, or basically any 1 out of 7 people who live in the Rhinebeck area have shared it in the last 2 months.
That's great. And it looks like you started this GoFundMe thing for them.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah.
So nice. And they're doing okay. They're going to be in Kingston temporarily, and then moving back to the
bingo. So they are going to be keeping the property. The property will be the Briggs's still. Their plans are their plans. I truthfully don't know what they're going to do with the property. I know for a fact that they have gotten approval to take down the structure from the town. But beyond that, it's truly up to them.
Right. All right. So we talk. You hit on this a little bit, talking about lots of fire companies around here that are, say, 100% men.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of an attitude. I mean, it's kind of a macho thing, and lots of firemen play that up.
Mm-hmm. It's detrimental. It sucks. The way I look at it, if we have somebody who has lit their shed on fire by accident, lit their car on fire, has fallen at the train station, is suffering a medical emergency in their house out on Rhinecliff Road, I don't care if they're male, female, anything between, anything outside those two. I don't care if they're Republican, Democrat, anything outside or inside of those. I don't care if you're 2'3", 6'9", or anything between that. If you're willing to give me your time, as we spoke about earlier, you don't have time to do this anymore. You shouldn't have time to do this anymore. If you do, kudos to you to volunteering to the fire company. You can go to the ASPCA and probably not get burned alive.
Yeah.
So my idea is, if you're willing to give me an iota of your time to help out the community, I'll take you. If you have a rough past, we will figure something out to a reasonable degree. If you have interpersonal issues with people in other fire companies, I don't care. If
that's
you
great.
Can produce and you will produce, I will have you produce. And that's it.
Seems reasonable and smart. But part of this, I wanted to ask about this, part of that sort of overall macho attitude amongst fire departments manifests in a rivalry between fire departments and especially between firefighters and police.
So what's yes. Yeah. So if you look more in a metro area, if you go down to Poughkeepsie, you go down to Newburgh, or New York City. Let's use New York City.
Okay.
It's the firefighters are firefighters and will forever be firefighters. The police are police and will forever be police. And you go on Facebook, there's plenty of meme pages of police versus firemen, blah blah blah. Up here, there's a good percentage of the volunteer firefighting force that are cops.
Also police.
Yeah, exactly. Whether they're in corrections or state troopers or anything in between, it's tough to draw that line, and it's more so the interdepartmental rivalries. And I'd hate to say a malicious rivalry. It's just kind of jabbing fun.
Yeah, probably it's a fun rivalry,
exactly.
Less than an actual malicious rivalry.
Yeah.
And so Rhinecliff, Rhinebeck,
and Hillside. Hillside is the third fire company that covers Rhinebeck out on the 4 lanes.
And so the three of you, is there trash talk between the departments?
Oh, yeah. It's constructive trash talk.
It's like, oh, you Rhinebeck rich boys up there with all your fancy budgets. And
see, you've definitely sat in on a meeting before, haven't you? No, so I mean, yeah, we always poke fun at the Village of Rhinebeck Fire in that their budget, their toys is what we'll phrase it as. They're running 1,000 calls a year, and they'll inflate some egos. Not all of them, and not in a poor way.
That's a lot. That's 1,000
a lot of
calls.
Yep, it is, and that's why their budget is
3
large.
a day.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
Yep, and so about 800 of those are EMS.
Okay. Mm-hmm. EMS. So 800 of them, something really happened.
Wow.
And the other 200.
So when I say EMS, EMS could be, oh no, I've chopped off my arm. Or EMS could also be, Aunt Sally's life alert battery is low.
Right.
And it sent an alarm to their central processing station, which sent an alarm to Dutchess 911, which sent an alarm to Rhinebeck. And by the time they got to the scene, then they understand, oh, it's just Aunt Sally again.
Right.
So
check your batteries, Aunt Sally.
Yeah, exactly. But you need to take every call as the worst case scenario. In that, could it be Aunt Sally's batteries,
Sure, yeah.
or is Aunt Sally actually having a TIA or a
You
stroke?
got to take it seriously
Yeah.
until you get there.
And so I give them bounds of credit for the amount of manpower or personnel they have, as well as their response rate. But I mean, with us running 125 calls this year, 145 calls projected, and we have a 96% response rate, which is the highest responding ambulance rate in the county, I'll take it.
And what percentage of those are EMS?
85, 89.
And the other percentage is
MVAs, motor vehicle accidents.
Okay.
Firematic calls, so anything from the fire alarm going off at the Morton Library to structure fire over on Dutchess Terrace.
right. And you get called for motor vehicle accidents
Yes.
because maybe gas is leaking and maybe there's going to be a fire and explosion.
Hazmat mitigation, protection, disentanglement or extrication from a vehicle, which today is not a bad thing. The crumple zones and everything that new cars have, the car will look awful, but the person will be alert and oriented inside the vehicle.
Right.
And just have a possible headache. And I'll take that.
Sure.
And then the hardest part is usually just getting them out of the vehicle. So, yeah. Knock on wood.
Knock on wood. Wow. So how long do you think you'll do this?
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah.
If you asked me when I was 17, when I was in my first year, I'd probably tell you, I'll do it another year or two and then I'll go to college and do something else. If you asked me 4 years ago, when I became the fire captain, I said, I'll probably do this until I die. Now as I'm the chief, I'm like, yeah, I'll be here for a while. Don't know how long, but I'll definitely be here for a while.
And if just supposing you wanted to make that a paying career,
Yeah.
being a fire chief,
Yeah.
what would that look like? Where would you go? What would you do?
I definitely wouldn't want to be a paid chief.
Oh, there you go.
So what's nice is I'm a part of an organization. It's the Dutchess County Fire Chiefs Council. And so whether we're the small department like me or Tivoli, or the larger departments like City of Poughkeepsie and East Fishkill that has 5 fire stations and runs 6,000 calls a year, we all sit in a room and talk. And I hear the issues that they have and the issues they need to deal with. And I think to myself, I'm a pretty lucky guy. The worst thing I've had to deal with was an argument over pronunciation of a word in the last 2 years. I'm not going to bring it up because they're going to get mad at me.
I want to hear it. Come on.
That's an off-the-record thing. You guys can come visit me at the fire station any Monday night at 7 p.m.
Oh, we'll ask you in a minute and a half after we're off the air.
Yeah.
All right. Any last comments? Speaking of a minute and a half, what did I forget to ask you?
Oh, man.
Let me ask this while you're thinking. So you definitely don't want to be a paid fire chief.
Correct.
So that kind of, you're at the terminal job in this career path. What about the other career path, the hospitality path and the wine path? Yeah. Where would that career go? And you probably love it at Millbrook.
As of April 1 of this coming year, I am going to be getting a new position at the winery. So I'm going to be moving from tasting room director to the director of sales for the corporation.
Oh, wow.
So I'll be doing all of the wholesaling, restaurants, bars, liquor stores, wine shops, etc., for the Millbrook name brand.
Nice.
So that's where I know I'll be moving around up diagonally, and I think it's a good career fit for now.
That's nice. And who in Rhinebeck carries this Millbrook wine?
So if you go to Old Mill Wine and Liquors, you get to the light in town, turn right. It's going to be your second building on your left-hand side. You can find us there.
Charles's place.
Yes, exactly, Charles's place.
Right.
You go straight through the light and go to Rhinebeck Wine and Liquor, just across the street from CVS. They carry our products.
Great.
If you make a left at the light in town, you go up to across the street from Dell's at the Astor Plaza.
Yeah.
The R&R Corks carry us. You go to any of the restaurants in Rhinebeck surrounding the light. I think we're in 12 out of 15 restaurants in the village.
That's perfect. Well, it sounds like you're perfectly poised for the next job.
Exactly.
And we're perfectly poised to say goodnight. But one last thing. Tell us again the GoFundMe, how people can help out the Briggs family.
So the Briggs GoFundMe, the easiest thing to do, go to GoFundMe.com, type in Rhinecliff, search, and it should be the first one. It should be the Briggs Family Fire Relief Fund. Anything from 10 cents up to whatever you want to give will help.
Great. Jake Euell, what a treat. So much fun having you here, and thank you so much for your intelligent and thoughtful and beautiful answers to these questions. Thanks for your service.
Well, I appreciate you guys' time, and I'll hopefully see you at the firehouse on Monday night.
Yeah, I hope so. Everybody have a fabulous Friday. Thanks for tuning in. Good night.